Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. After being captured by a group of criminals, the baby heir goes on a great adventure in the city of Chicago while trying to escape and punish his pursuers. Today we will recap the story of the 1994 movie, Baby's Day Out. Gilbertini is the nanny of mischievous baby Bink. The woman has been taking care of the child since birth and reads the same story every day to get Bink to sleep. The book tells the story of a nanny who takes baby Boo on an adventure in the city. After breakfast, they board a big blue bus and get to know several cool places, such as the mall, the zoo, a park, and a building under construction. That morning, Lorraine Cotwell informs her husband that she has hired a baby photographer to photograph her son. Bennington asks why his wife wants those pictures, and the woman reveals that she wants everyone to be able to see the picture of the cutest baby in town in the newspapers. Meanwhile, Charlie the photographer and his assistant are on their way to the Cotwell home when they are captured by three scammers, who steal their clothes to infiltrate the mansion. Just as Bennington Cotwell says goodbye to his family and leaves home to go to work, the charlatans arrive at the mansion in their stolen van. Quickly, Gilbertini gets baby Bink ready for the photo shoot while Lorraine gets ready. Eddie and his goons prepare all the equipment and await the arrival of the baby, who enters the room along with his nanny, his mother, and the butler. Lorraine informs the supposed photographer that she wants several individual photos of Bink and then also wants to take some photos with her son. With the excuse that he needs the child's full attention in order to take perfect pictures, Eddie asks the three of them to leave the room for a few minutes so as not to distract Bink. Immediately, Gilbertini is suspicious of the request, but Lorraine decides to comply with the photographer's directions. Before she leaves, the man asks her to change her dress because that flashy outfit might overshadow the boy's beauty in the photos. At this time, Lorraine runs to her room to look for another dress, and Gilbertini directs Eddie to read Bink's favorite book in case the child gets restless. After leaving, the butler closes the door and the scammers escape with the baby through the window. They get into the van with the boy and take the book to get him to sleep for the next few hours. Minutes later, they park in the middle of the forest and remove their disguises before fleeing in another vehicle. When Lorraine and Gilbertini return to the room, they realize that the place is empty and the woman is distraught to find the notice of the criminals. Bennington also receives a letter and triggers the police immediately. The criminals were asking for $5 million to return the child. The money was to be placed in a garbage bag behind the factory by midnight. When they arrive at their hiding place, Norby changes the baby's clothes to prevent him from being recognized by other people. Vico prepares the bottle and pours the milk on his friend's bald head to test the temperature. Furious at having his head burned off, Norby slaps Vico on the back of the head and the men begin to fight. Seeing this scene, Bink starts to laugh and enjoy himself. With the bottle ready, Norby takes the boy to his room and sings a song to get him to sleep. Minutes pass and the child is still awake, so Norby decides to change his strategy and starts reading the story from the book given to him by the nanny. Just then, at the Cotwell mansion, FBI agents are working to collect DNA samples from the criminals, but Lorraine can't stay home and wait while her son is missing. She is about to go out to look for the boy when one of the investigators appears and tries to stop her. The man claims that Lorraine would only be putting herself in danger by leaving the house to look for the child, and assures her that the best way to help find him is to stay safe. Hours pass and Norby ends up sleeping while reading the story. On the other hand, Bink stays awake and flips through every page of that book. At one point, a dove lands on the window and the boy remembers that he has seen this animal before in his book. So he starts chasing the bird and goes up the stairs to the terrace. Bink watches the bad guys sitting on the sofa and starts laughing as they argue. At that instant, the men run into the bedroom and Eddie is furious when he realizes that Norby was sleeping while the boy ran away. They quickly rush to try to catch the child, but Bink uses a plank to cross into another building and Eddie collapses as he is knocked out by the piece of wood. His friends find him soon after and manage to lift him. Now they have to jump to get to the neighboring building and Eddie ends up falling. He tries to hold on to avoid the fall, but only manages to postpone the inevitable and ends up in the garbage can. By now, baby Bink has managed to break into a woman's apartment and is trying to get out to continue his adventure. Luckily, or unluckily, the resident does not notice the boy's presence and allows him to escape when she opens the door to meet a delivery man. The child then gets into the elevator and exits the building, while the goofs help their friend up from the garbage can. Bink crawls unnoticed along the sidewalk and gets into a blue bus, identical to the one in his book. As Eddie tries to pull himself together, he sees his $5 million going away along with the rest of the passengers. Driven by desperation, the trio chases the bus and nearly causes several traffic accidents. While trying to catch up with the car, Bink gets into the shopping basket of a lady who was about to get off the bus. When the woman gets down from the vehicle, Norby manages to talk to the driver and asks if he saw a baby inside. Concerned, the man contacts the employees at the company where he works and asks if they know of any missing babies. After Norby checks that there is no child inside the vehicle, Vico spots the boy inside the basket. They start chasing the woman, who feels threatened by those unknown men and attacks them. While the criminals take a beating, Bink gets out of the basket and crawls into the mall, where he is mistaken for one of the children in the daycare center. However, when a mother goes to pick up her daughter, the boy hitches a ride, hiding in the stroller, and even takes the girl's bottle. Bink then leaves the mall and gets into a cab while the three men search for him. However, by the time they spot the baby, it is too late and he manages to escape once again. In the middle of the afternoon, Bennington gets a call from a guy who says he has information about the whereabouts of his son. Minutes later, the couple goes to find him, along with Dale, the agent in charge of the case. The man asks for money in exchange for the information and, after receiving payment, informs them that the child is in the building across the street. The agents break into Mrs. McGray's apartment looking for the boy, and the couple meet the woman's children. When they enter the room, Lorraine believes she has found her son, but soon discovers that that baby is not Bink. She asks the woman to forgive her for the inconvenience, and Mrs. McGray says she will continue to pray that Lorraine will find her boy. When the cab parks, the boy gets out of the vehicle and sees the zoo. In order to continue the saga of his book, he crosses the street and counts on the help of his guardian angel to avoid being run over. Minutes later, the crooks park behind the cab and, after checking that the baby is no longer in the vehicle, try to cross the busy street to reach him. While running to reach the sidewalk before they are crushed, the criminals accidentally jump into a ditch. After recovering from the fall, they walk through the zoo and find traces of the baby. When they arrive at the primate section, the men are surprised to find Bink inside a gorilla cage. Apparently, the animal has adopted the boy as its son, and when Vico tries to pick him up, the gorilla lands a blow on his hand. The man screams in pain and Eddie thinks of a new plan to catch Bink. He orders Norby to use a broomstick to pull the boy by his clothes while Eddie tries to distract the animal. However, the gorilla realizes what is happening and grabs the boy back. It then throws Norby away. A short time later, the child and the animal take a nap and Eddie sees the perfect opportunity to retrieve Bink. He slowly pulls the boy by the feet, but the gorilla wakes up and, after letting out a menacing roar, uses all his strength to throw the man toward the other cage. Then the door opens and Bink accompanies the animal to the outside area. The boy goes under the bars and manages to get out, while Eddie has to be rescued by his friends. In her mansion, Lorraine recalls that that morning all she wanted most was to see her son's picture in the newspaper. Then, that afternoon, her wish came true, but not in the way she expected. Despite all the inconvenience that has happened since they took that baby, the criminals refuse to give up their reward and continue after him, driving around town in their old van. When Vico spots the baby, Eddie parks quickly and the child hides in the bushes. Bink enters a tunnel and the men manage to catch him on the other side, at the exit. After accomplishing their mission, they return to the van, but spot some police officers searching the vehicle and try to hide. In order not to arouse suspicion, the men sit on the park bench and, when questioned by the officers, claim to be enjoying the scenery. Eddie hides the baby under his coat. While the man is talking to the policeman, Bink takes a lighter from his pocket and accidentally starts a fire. The flames reach the pants of the criminal, who starts acting strange, since he cannot reveal the presence of the boy. Seeing their friend in trouble, Vico and Norby try to throw the cops off guard and escort them back to the car. As Eddie tries to put out the fire in his pants, Bink runs away again and Vico steps on his friend to eliminate the flames. Although he manages to free himself from the fire, Eddie can barely walk, as he has practically had his lower parts crushed. To complete his adventure and accomplish all the outings that Baby Boo and his nanny did in the book, Baby Bink ends up at a construction site of a building under construction. He watches the workers intently and almost gets run over by a tractor. Counting on his great luck, the boy goes to explore that gigantic building, but first he decides to stop for a snack. As the child devours the donut that was on top of a metal beam, the tricksters appear and Vico sees the boy being pulled up along with the beam. Eddie and Norby park the van and the three of them enter the construction site behind Bink. The trio goes up the stairs and into the elevator. After going up a few floors, they go down and wait for the boy to come up and pick him up. At the right moment, Vico jumps onto the beam, but his weight causes the object to rise and Bink slips, falling onto the elevator. When the machine stops, the child comes down again and Norby tries to help his partner who is trapped in the beam. However, Eddie pushes his accomplice and the two men are left hanging several feet high. Terrified, Norby ends up slipping and falls face first into a wooden pole. On the other hand, Vico is thrown back into the building and falls on top of Eddie, but Norby's bad luck doesn't end there. When he wakes up and tries to get up, the man takes another tumble and ends up inside a cement mixer. Instead of helping him, his cronies continue after the child. Eddie orders Vico to jump into the elevator and every muscle in his body is impacted by the fall. Seconds later, he finally manages to get up, but has another accident when the elevator starts to go down. To ensure his safety, Eddie decides to go down the stairs while Vico is thrown onto a cart and slides to the other side. Still dazed from the blows to the head, the man cannot jump out of the cart in time and ends up falling into a container full of construction materials. Just when you think his streak of bad luck is over, he gets a nice bath of dirty water. Without much effort, Baby Bink managed to get rid of 2 of his pursuers and now only Eddie, the head of the operation, is left. He was the one who came up with the idea to take the baby and plans to retire after getting the ransom money. Seeing the child standing right in front of him, the man believes that his hunt is over. While walking towards the boy, Eddie slips on the drool that the boy has left behind, and as he falls to the ground, he ends up lifting a plank, which throws the hammer up and the object lands on the criminal's head. As he stands up, the man screams in pain and accidentally pulls on a rope while looking for something to lean on. In doing so, Eddie activates the mixer and pours several liters of a gooey liquid into his own body. Instead of accepting his defeat, the smart guy gets even angrier and holds on to the banister as he slips trying to catch up with the boy, who is only a few feet away. However, the inevitable happens and he falls to the ground. With difficulty, the man gets up, but can barely move, because the place is so slippery. As he walks away, the baby giggles as he sees Eddie giving himself a hard time and crawls away, climbing onto a platform that is returning to the ground. As his last attempt to reach the boy, Eddie jumps on a hook and intends to climb down along with the rope. However, it is late afternoon and the siren, indicating the end of the workday, sounds. At that moment, all the machines are turned off and the employees get ready to leave. While everyone says goodbye and goes to their homes to rest, Eddie is stuck upstairs and sees his pension going away, once again. The last employees left behind spot the baby crawling on the sidewalk and decide to inform the authorities. The sun goes down and Eddie is still hanging there with no way to get down. He cries out for help from his companions, who are just as bad or even worse off than he is. Even covered in cement, Norby goes up to help him, and Vico accompanies him. When evening comes, Dale shows up at the Cotwell mansion with news. He informs the couple that after the press reported Baby Bink missing, some people anonymously called the authorities and reported that a man was looking for a missing baby on the bus that morning. Another person said that he saw a baby walking alone in the mall and in the zoo around 3 in the afternoon. Next, the child was seen in a downtown park and finally in the middle of the construction site of a building under construction. Upon hearing the investigators' words, the nanny soon realizes that Bink has ventured to all the places mentioned in the story of her favorite book. As such, there is only one place he can be right now, and that is at the veteran soldier's home, where the nanny and baby Boo have gone to visit Mr. Tinsel. Upon hearing this, the FBI agent sends several vehicles to the scene and accompanies the couple there, hoping to find the lost child. As Gilbertini predicted, Baby Bink has finished his journey at the veteran's home. As soon as he spots the boy, one of the old folks recognizes him, as he saw the child on the news earlier. When they arrive at the nursing home, the couple sees their son surrounded by old soldiers who are singing a beautiful song for him. Gilbertini and Lorraine are relieved to hear that the boy is okay, and the woman rushes to take her son on her lap. In the car on the way home, Baby Bink begins to speak his first words and says, "Boo-boo." Immediately, the nanny realizes that the boy is referring to her book while looking at a clock located on top of a building. Then his mother realizes that the child is pointing to the spot where his book is. Dale immediately orders the driver to turn around and calls for reinforcements to catch the criminals. Hiding in the apartment, the trio of thugs tend to their injuries while Eddie promises that he will never mess with kids again. He plans to return to his life of crime, looting banks and mansions. At that moment, the rascal hears the baby and believes that the noise is a figment of his imagination, until he looks out the window and discovers that, besides being vindictive, the kid is a tough little guy, for he led the police to the apartment of the people who kidnapped him. In this way, the criminals are arrested and Baby Bink can return home with his parents to rest from his exhausting day. But before going to sleep, the boy takes a new book from his bookshelf. This time, he chooses the story of a baby who took a trip through China. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.